Hey guys, welcome back. Let's talk about how you choose a new bike as a Gen Xer. Like, which bike do you choose? Yeah, if you've never had a bike before, or it's been many years since you last rode, or you rode dirt bikes as a kid and you're getting back into it, your midlife crisis bike, it can be really confusing, man. I think unless you're like me and you're committed to just riding all types of bikes and just trying it, you know what I mean? Just having the experience and buying sort of a series of reasonably priced bikes to ride just for the experience and the enjoyment of riding different things. I'll ride anything. I'll even ride sports bikes. I just don't want to own one, right? So if you enjoy it as that kind of hobby, you don't really need to watch this video. Just watch some of the other videos and go out and buy different bikes, right? But this video is about the guy that kind of wants to get into riding. It's been on his bucket list, but there's just a sea of different styles of bikes. And when we talk about bikes, we're not actually talking about the bikes, we're talking about the styles. Like, do you want an adventure bike? Do you want a cruiser? So we're talking about the style, and there's so many sub-styles now. Like, they want to make these products so niche as possible that it's really confusing, especially if you just want to get the one bike. So I'm going to try and make it as easy as possible, and I'm going to use my mental magic, if you like, to kind of narrow it down for you. What is happening here? So, first question, I think it's pretty obvious. What do you want to do with the bike? Like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do with it? Do you want to go on long trips? Do you want to take the missus somewhere? Is it just for fun? Do you just want to learn how to ride? Do you want to have different experiences? So what kind of experience do you want to have? Yeah. So it makes sense if you want to go on long trips. Comfort's important. You're going to pick a bike a decent sized cruiser, or you're going to pick a sports touring, or you're going to pick an adventure bike, right? Don't worry about the subsets just yet. We'll get into that. You're going to buy a bike that can soak up the bumps and that your bum's going to be comfortable in for a long time, yeah? And that cuts out a lot. Just answering that question. What are you going to do with it? Now, with this bike, for example, it's a commuter. It's my daily commuter. It has to do a bit of everything. It has to be able to load stuff on. If I want to go for a trip to the beach and take the missus, it can do that. So adventure bikes will tick a lot of those boxes, whereas cruisers, they mainly for your really decent long distance trips, or if you like more substantial trips, more you know, you're not going to take your big Harley to the shops and negotiate boom gates and try and park it up and squeeze it into a place in parking stations, right? So but people do, right? I'm sure someone will comment and say they do. But we're trying to pick one that's perfect for you. And I think the issue is mainly when you're looking for information on bikes, it's usually coming from a perspective of another rider. There's a lot of channels out there that deal with choosing a bike, and it's mainly about the ergonomics, and they're mainly all young fellas talking about what's good here and there. I mean, you can't talk about a bike, there are a lot of older people doing it, but you can't talk about a bike that's going to be great for a 50-year-old unless you're a 50-year-old who rides, you know what I mean? So take it from me, when you're 50, comfort's going to be a consideration, right? And if you're one of those guys that just is having a midlife crisis, or you might have got divorced, or you might be thinking about divorce, and you want to get a sports bike so you can get a younger girl, you're watching the wrong channel, mate. It's I can't talk for you. Just go do whatever you want to do. But I'm talking about someone that had a bucket list, wants to ride, maybe hasn't ridden before, and wants to get into it, and has some idea of what they want to do. So I've asked you the question, what do you want to do with the bike? Yeah? So once you've answered that question, you can narrow it down to sports tourer, cruiser, there's a bigger cruiser, adventure bike, and we'll break down in different videos what's the best adventure bike to get, what's the best cruiser to get. I'll break that down separately, or this video will be bigger than Ben-Hur. But the next question you have to ask yourself is, who do you want to be on the bike? Who do you want to be? And it might sound like a silly question. You might say, well, I want to be myself. But do you? You know what I mean? Do you want to be yourself? You might be an accountant, you might be a CPA, you might be a very right-wing conservative person all week, and you want to let your hair down on the weekend. You want to be something else. You want to get on your bike, you want to get on your dirty, great, loud, obnoxious bike and go for a cruise and put your helmet on, be like Batman, you know what I mean? Have your alter ego. Now there's a lot of people that do that. I kind of do. I mean, once you have the helmet on, it is kind of your alter ego. But I'm pretty much the same riding as I am the rest of the week, you know, for me. So my bikes aren't really a representation of me, they're more for what I do with them, right? But you might want to, if you're going to choose one bike, who do you want to be on the bike? Now I want a big fat cruiser muscle bike. Does that mean I'm a big bully boy thug? No, it doesn't. It just means I want to experience that. I want to feel that. I want to feel what it's like to have that raw power. And get a thrill out of it, get a kick out of it, because remember, if you don't enjoy what you're doing, you're not going to do it. It's as simple as that. If you don't enjoy it, no matter what bike you get, if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to do it. And there's a lot of people that will lie to themselves and say, oh, I do enjoy it, I really enjoy it, but I don't get time for it. No, that's not true. That's the biggest lie. Everyone that says they don't have time for their bike, they didn't think it through when they bought it. There's a sea of really good bikes out there, and the bikes are amazing, but they go, oh, I have no time for it. You've got time to watch telly, you've got time to get fat on the couch, you've got time to do a lot of other things. There's no way you don't have time to ride every now and then. It's just not a priority for you because you don't enjoy it. So that goes to show, getting the biggest, baddest thing out there is not necessarily going to let you enjoy it. Yeah. So who do you want to be? Do you want to be the guy that has the biggest, baddest thing out there, that rides down to the coffee shop, pulls up, and everyone goes, ooh, and asks you questions about it, and you can show them all the gadgets? Well, if you want to be that guy, more power to you. Go buy a GS BMW adventure bike, or go buy the top of the range Harley. You're going to get the looks. If you want attention, And there's nothing wrong with that. If you want attention, go get a bike that's going to get you attention. I've driven many cars that are attention seeking, that were sort of head turners. I've looked at getting many bikes that would be head turners, but I came to realisation I'm more of an introvert. I like talking to people every now and then. I do love talking to people about bikes. I will go up to people and just randomly start a conversation, but I don't value that look at me things. But if you do, get yourself something like that. But if you want to be the sort of rugged outdoorsman, you want to go a bit off-road, you want to go camping, you want to go anywhere, adventure bikes are no-brainer. That's why they're overtaking. I think that they will soon overtake everything else. Right? Your mid-level adventure bikes, for you guys, you Gen Xers getting into bikes, don't go out and grab the 1,000 plus cc bike unless you're a very competent rider. Go and get the mid-level ones. Like, this is a 650. I never run out of power on this. I mean, I do want a bigger bike, but that's more just human nature. You get bored with what you've got. But I'm speeding now. And I'm in 6th gear. I'm not revving it out. I've got plenty of power left in this. So don't look at horsepower figures, don't look at specs, don't look at all that rubbish, don't look at the reviews paid for by the company. Go and sit on the bike, see how you feel. So that comes to the next point. How do you want to feel on the bike? How do you want to feel? Do you want to feel safe, comfortable, stable? You want that upright riding position? Adventure bikes. You want that laid back, cruisy riding position, lower to the ground. Get yourself a Softail or a Cruiser or something like that, right? So it's narrowing down your options for bikes, because really the only people that ride cafe races, now you can go out and get a cafe racer, you can go out and get a sports bike, get whatever you like, and more power to you. But most of the people that buy that kind of stuff, it's more for the image, and that comes down to who do you want to be. Do you want to be sort of an extrovert? Do you want it to be connected with a group of people? You like the cafe racer, you like rolling up your jeans and pretending you're a 1950s, 1960s Londoner. You want to do 100 miles an hour on a bike that's a death trap. Go and do it. Relive somebody else's youth. Like, go and do that. I'm not knocking you. I'm just saying it's not for me. But it comes back to those two questions. What do you want to do with the bike? Now, a lot of people who've been riding for years and they're hooked. It's in their blood, it's in the DNA. They'll have many different bikes and they'll go through many different bikes, sometimes up to 50, maybe even more. I've had people comment that they've had like 40 something bikes over the years. Amazing. I hope I rack up that, I don't know how many years I've got left in me, but a bike a year I'll probably get 30 or 40 in, but let's see how we go. But just enjoy. You've got to enjoy the riding. So get something you enjoy over trying to impress other people or trying to fit in a group. So this comes to my next question. So this is an important question. If you were the last man on earth, no one else was around, like you were Will Smith in I Am Legend, slapping mannequins around, what bike would you ride? What style of bike would you ride? If no one would ever see you riding the bike, what bike would you ride? And you might say to yourself, well, I'd ride a few, I'd ride whatever's going. There's your answer. You're not satisfied with one. There's no one thing, right? Not just yet. As you get older, you might be. And that's a tough question. I mean, and it might change from day to day, and you might buy a bike and it might be the only one you have, and then you might completely, you might go from cruisers to adventure bikes for a while. You might go back to a cruiser. That happens. It's not a marriage, although with some of the price tags on these new ones, it's like a mortgage. So when you can answer all those questions, and I haven't said anything about bikes yet, because it's not about the technicality of the bike, because there's some bikes that on paper are absolutely amazing, but you might sit on it and ride it and it feels terrible for you. And that's happened to me. I got a bike fixated in my head, thought it would be amazing. Even just sitting on it, it was like awkward. So the specs don't do you justice with buying a bike. Like there's downsides to everything, right? But just a little niggly thing can put you off a bike and put you off riding. So that when it comes down to the next thing is do your research. So you've narrowed it down, you've answered those questions, you've got down to the kind of style that you want, and if you're like me, it'll come down to either an adventure bike or maybe even a dual sport, right? You like that upright riding and you want a bit of adventure in your life, or it'll be a cruiser. Now, you need to be realistic with yourself. This is where the realistic. So now we've had the sort of imagination, and we've done the sort of visual planning, if you like, or the visualizations. Yeah. But I had a dream. I had a dream of taking my missus around everywhere on a bike. So I was kind of looking at, you know, bigger cruisers and that kind of stuff. And to be honest, she wasn't as into it. She loves her car. She loves the crease of comfort. She'd enjoy the bike for a short period of time, but she's no way as into it as I am. And so that's the part where you have to get realistic. Is it your dream, or are you including somebody else into your dream? Because if someone else is a consideration and they're not on board, you might want to check with them first, right? Before you go and buy a bike that costs you an arm and a leg and no one wants to ride with you. A lot of blokes out there say get new misses. But yeah, so I mean that's the thing, that's a consideration. You can't force someone to enjoy something they just don't enjoy it. So that's realistic. So now that you've answered all those questions, here's the question: what's your realistic budget? So now if you haven't ridden before, you don't have any gear, your budget for the gear for you is going to be like minimum, you're going to want to get decent stuff. Boots, gloves, pants, all the gear, right? If you're like me, get all the gear. For me, if I'm getting a setup, it's going to cost me minimum $1,000, so budget that into getting your helmet and the rest of it. And that's not the top shelf stuff, that's just getting the gear. So budget $1,000 and then put that into your budget. And then what's your budget for the bike, including the gear? because that's going to narrow down everything, right? So answer all those other questions I've already asked you. What do you want to do with the bike? Who do you want to be? How do you want to feel on it? You kind of narrowed you down to, now you can look at the specs, you can look at the ergonomics of the bike. We're going to talk about that in other videos for specific bikes. But what's your budget? So if you're after a big cruiser, and your budget's less than 20 grand, well, you're looking second hand, right? You're looking a few years old second hand, right? So if budget's a consideration and you just want to ride a bike, ask those questions and just get the best value bike you can get. That's my advice for anyone, is to, without getting too hung up on it, see if riding's for you first. So Dual Sports, excuse me. So Dual Sports and your smaller adventure bikes or your mid-level adventure bikes, they're pretty easy to ride. You can get your small level, mid-level cruisers. There's tons of Japanese ones out there. Easy to ride, quite reliable. Get something that, and I'm going to talk about it, like I said, in depth in the other videos, but get something that has long service intervals. Do your research, narrow it down to something that you like. Join the chat groups, or if they don't let you join because you don't know enough about the bike, do your research. There's tons of forums out there. There's tons of research to be had on any bike. Get on YouTube, type in the model you're looking at, and just keep strolling through till you see some problems. That's what I do. So I always look for, what's the issue going to be with the bike. So I want to see the videos on the worst about the bike, not so much what's, I'll watch the ones that are giving it a rap, 5 things I love about it, but all the bad stuff is what I'm looking for. Yeah. And I will be doing a video on this, on the V-Strom. We'll be doing a video on V-Star and my other bikes, all the bad stuff, right? Because I realised that, especially with reviews, people will look through all the reviews of a place and they'll look for a bad review, because people have a negative bias. It doesn't mean that you won't go there, it just means that you look for the bad stuff. And sometimes, every bike has something, a bad point. There is no Shangri-La of bikes out there. Yeah? Everything's got a downside to it for somebody, right? There's no one size fits all. Now, if that's given you some clarity, I hope it has. First thing you got to do is get some motivation to go and get a license. Yeah, go and get your ticket, get a license. And what motivated me was having the bike, because what can happen is, you go and get your L, especially in Australia. I don't know what it's like in the States. You get endorsements and stuff like that. I don't know what goes on over there. But over here you get an L-class license, learner's license. You're going to do a 2-day course on a little CB125, and then you're expected, you've got between 3 months and the minimum 3 months to 12 months to go and get your provisional license. So your license means you can ride properly. I don't think there's much difference between P's and L's, to tell you the truth, but it's your proper license, to moving towards your full license. So why I'm saying have the bike ready is, it's a motivator, because a lot of people will go and do their test. They'll go and pass their test. They'll be excited about it. Then they'll start researching it. They should have done the research before they even went for their test. They should have had an idea and they had a bike lined up. As soon as they pass the test, go and buy it, or already have bought one. Because that's going to motivate you. Because even, unfortunately, if you do fail the test, you're still going to go back and try and do it. Because we can talk ourselves out of things very quickly. And there's a lot of egos around motorcycles. That's one thing I didn't talk about. There's a lot of egos. There's a lot of brilliant people, and most of them are subscribers to this channel. And hint, hint, subscribe and like if you've listened this far. But there's a lot of people that love to big name themselves and will tell you stories about all the stuff they've done. I've found that most of the people that are real badasses on bikes don't talk about it that much. They will tell you a couple of things here and there, have a couple of stories, but they don't need to big name themselves because they're already badasses. So take with a grain of salt what advice people give you. Depends on the type of person, doesn't it? It really does depend on the type of person. Now, in saying that, I was very lucky. I've had some great mates giving me some awesome advice. People that have been riders their entire life, and I was given a bike to ride before I got my license. And why I say that, it was absolute motivator, because I was given a ride bike. It was sitting there, you could sit on it, you could start it up, you could pot around on it, and it was a motivator. Okay, if someone believes in me, I'm going to believe in myself, no matter how daunting it is to go and get my license or whatever BS excuses I put up in to why it's not the right time. Mate, it's never the right time. It's never the right time. It's like having a baby. It's never the right time, but we still do it. And all I can say from my perspective is having that push really made a difference. And I've not stopped riding ever since. The day I got my license, I went for a ride because I had the bike there. Short one, still a bit nervous because it was a bigger bike than what you do your test on. But the bike's there, and you're not going to get rusty, because the worst thing you can do is get your license and then you haven't bought a bike for 3 months and it all just becomes too hard, in the too hard basket, and you go back to having no confidence. And then when you go to test ride a bike, you're rusty and you don't feel confident, and you kind of blame the bike even though it's you. So just have a bike ready if you want to motivate it. Don't go and break the bank and buy something that's way out of your budget. Buy something that if it doesn't work out for you, you won't mind taking the hit. You can always sell it, but you won't mind taking a hit at losing a little bit of money if you do, right? It's all about the experience. In life, it's a learning experience, and you pay for that experience. But it'll make a huge difference if you have a bike ready to go, yeah? So that's why it's probably going to be a mid-level bike, whatever you get. Yeah, if you haven't ridden before, it's just crazy to jump in something that's going to be too big or too overpowered for you. So ride. The advice that I was given and the advice that I give is get something that you're not going to get bored of in 6 months, but you can be on for a little while, ride the pants off it, and really become a good rider. Because a lot of the bigger bikes, they do a lot of work for you, and It's not enjoyable because you know, the bike wants to do 200 kilometers an hour and you're not doing that. So it's not much fun. I'd rather be on a bike. So this is my own personal opinion. I'd rather be on a bike that I can what is happening here? I'd rather be on a bike that I can wring its neck every now and then, have a bit of fun with it, flick it around, instead of a bike that is all show and once my mates are over it, once that initial thrill's over it, it's too precious for me to take out. So I'm not about that, even if I do get a high-end bike, all my bikes get ridden, so that's my own personal advice. Get something sort of mid-level. If you're in Australia, you're capped at 650, right? So get yourself, I obviously chose a V-Strom because I feel that it's the best value for money, and I still stand by that. But there's so many other options out there now. There's so many different bikes out there now, right? And cruisers. There's a lot of different cruisers out there. With a cruiser, you're going to get a new bike anyway. You're going to get a new bike anyway because the cruisers you get now, they're not fantastic for 2-up. You can do it, but if you're a solid lad like me and your missus isn't a China doll, which my missus is pretty light, love you babe, but if they're just not going to feel comfortable on a lot of the smaller cruisers, not on long trips anyway. Maybe going down the beach and that kind of stuff, I get it. But an adventure bike, you can get a bike like this and it will last you. You can basically have it forever and not get bored of it, right? Depends on the type of person you are. I do get bored of things. Well, there's plenty of other bikes like Honda CB 500X, they do a great job. So think about that. But I hope this has helped you. I hope this has given you some insight, because it is very confusing. And a lot of the time it's easy when you got mates, because they kind of bias you, they kind of put their own 2 cents in. But if you don't have mates, if you don't have people to give you advice, and I'm not laughing at you, I'm just saying, like, sometimes you want to ride a bike and no one you know rides a bike, and that happens. It's your dream, it's not anyone else's, which is back to my point. Don't and that's another tip I'm going to give you. This is another one that's come to mind. Answer all those questions, and you don't need to externally validate it from anyone else. You don't need anyone else's opinion, right? Because like my old dad used to say, opinions are like arseholes. Everyone's got one, but you don't need to hear from them all. So just be true to yourself, because if you buy a bike at compromise because of someone else's opinion, that's their opinion, that's their experience. You ever watched a movie and thought it was great and then someone else thought it was rubbish, or someone told you a movie was rubbish and then you watched it and thought, oh, it's not that bad? Because it's their own expectations, their own opinions. Everyone has expectations. If you get off a sports bike, if a sports bike rider tells you, oh, Harleys are all slow, first of all, screw them, but it's different expectations, isn't it? Oh, the beach is beautiful today. So just do what's true for you. Enjoy yourself. Like and subscribe. And ride safe. I'll see you on the road. If you've got any other questions, drop a comment. I'm happy to do specific videos. This is my hobby and I enjoy it. My hobby is riding. It's in the blood. I'm on the bike every day. And I'm a 50-year-old male, so man. Take care of yourselves. See you next time.